Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord and Jake Gordon. The Lamar Jackson saga is the saga that won't die. Kind of reminds me of Carlos Correa in the MLB this past offseason. I don't know if this is ever going to come to an end, but eventually it has to. And the latest thing happened, a turn that took place this morning, is he tweeted out that he has requested a trade from Baltimore, which is the first we've heard of it. And the timing could not have been any more, on purpose. Right when John Harbaugh was about to take the stage at the league meetings, he tweeted this out. It wasn't a coincidence. This was a sign that he really wants out of Baltimore. So, Alex, is Atlanta back in the mix for this?
Yeah, it was clearly coordinated. Whether Lamar did it or his agent did it, or
he doesn't have one.
An agent, his representatives, I guess.
Someone told him.
Someone told him. I think it still doesn't matter. I just don't. I guess you got to believe the team when the team says, we're not in the running. Granted, this team has done nothing for fans to just take its word for it. They've dragged us through the mud for years, so we shouldn't really give them the benefit of the doubt in any scenario, especially one where, last year they were big game hunting Deshaun Watson and quote unquote rolled the red carpet out for him, only to, downplay all interest afterwards that, once they didn't get him. So, take the Falcons saying they're not interested with a grain of salt. I believe them only because it seems like Lamar and this Ravens thing is playing out in a bigger way than just teams not wanting a great quarterback. Call it collusion, call it whatever you want. It doesn't pass the smell test to me. Every team should be lining up for a 26-year-old MVP, in my opinion, yet nobody is. So something's off. For me as a fan, I want it. I want excitement back in Atlanta on Sundays. Going to Mercedes-Benz has been dreadful the past couple of years. I go to a few games every year, and though I have fun, I know a lot of other people there aren't having fun. I'm all for Lamar coming here because I just want fun. It might not be the best way to win a Super Bowl, but winning a Super Bowl is impossible. You might as well get an MVP quarterback and sell some tickets while you're trying to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. I'm a little more pessimistic than most people, but come on. We all know this isn't going to happen. I honestly think he's just going to end up playing for Baltimore. I think this whole thing is just going to keep dragging out. Maybe the Colts make a move or something, which is a team I'm really surprised hasn't, by the way. But they do own the 4th overall pick. But something that I heard about this is since they have the non-exclusive tender on him, if you wait until after the draft, they don't get the pick from this year. They get the pick from next year. So it's possible the teams are just waiting on the draft. Because if you're the Colts, why would you give up the 4th pick when you could just wait, get Lamar? You're going to be way better than the 4th pick next year, more than likely. And then after that, your next year's pick will probably be like 26th or
Is it crazy
24th.
to say? Is it crazy to say that it's more likely he doesn't play at all this year than it is for him to play for Baltimore? Because I don't think that's crazy.
I thought about that, but I don't think he's going to.
I actually don't think that's crazy at all. I don't think he's playing for Baltimore. If he has already requested a trade out and they don't meet his demands, because I think it's very clear he wants his demands met. And I don't know if that's a fully guaranteed contract, but it is a certain amount of money and it is a certain amount of guaranteed dollars. And if he's just playing on the franchise, I don't see any way he plays next year.
At one point, I think it was about the money and the guaranteed dollars, but now I think it's just left a bad taste in his mouth where he's just
it's a principle thing. Yeah.
It's a principle thing for him where he's just like, you don't value me. Even if you meet my demands, you've already, disrespected me nationally. So, and, made me out to be the bad guy. So I think he could really be done and just want a fresh start. He might not play this year because no teams want him. It's crazy. No, there's usually, DeAndre Hopkins available. There's 5 teams immediately that, credible sources were like, these guys are interested. And nobody in an MVP. Yeah,
Pac-Man Jones is the GOAT, guys. Madden All-Star.
No doubt. But it's just weird. It doesn't make sense at all. It feels like there's larger games being played, NFL versus players.
I feel like
there definitely is.
There definitely is. I feel like there's some sneaky teams to watch out for. The Colts are one of them, obviously. I think the Patriots, I don't think they're happy with the Mac Jones situation from everything I've heard. I think they're definitely trying to find someone. And if you think about the Patriots, the way they play football, they want to just run the ball and play defense and create turnovers and win the little battles. that's a place I think Lamar could really thrive. They could make it work. The one thing I do want to say, yes, I do not know if the Falcons are going to show any interest, even though I think it's stupid that they won't, because there's no doubt he's better than Desmond Ridder, and he's far and away better. And I don't know if Desmond Ridder will ever reach the point where he can carry a team to a Super Bowl. We know Lamar Jackson can with the right roster around him. So it's crazy to me the Falcons haven't shown more interest, especially after last year with Deshaun Watson, which leads me to believe there is some sort of things going beyond the scene as far as collusion and stuff like that. But the one thing I do want to address is, listen, the Falcons have, let's say $23 million in cap space. Like, everyone's like, oh, there's no way. They've already spent all this money. They can't fit them in their cap sheet. That's a bunch of malarkey. They could figure out a way to bring Lamar Jackson to Atlanta. Now, would it handcuff them over the next couple of years? Yes, because they'd have to backload the hell out of their contract. But Jake, you talked about in an article over the weekend, they're scheduled to have $60-70 million just right now. And they could make some moves, restructures, cuts, stuff like that, to put that closer to $100 million. They could fit Lamar Jackson into their salary cap sheet and be okay. And if you throw Lamar Jackson onto this team right now, you can't tell me they're not the favorites to win the NFC South. You just cannot tell me that, because this roster is not nearly as bad as it was last year. They look like they could have an average defense. And if you put Lamar Jackson with these weapons around him, Jonnu Smith, Kyle Pitts, he loves throwing to tight ends, Drake London on the outside, he already has better weapons than he ever had in Baltimore. And you have a guy in Arthur Smith who will probably know how to utilize them. So you're NFC South favorites, and you just look around the NFC. It's pretty awful just in general. Like, outside of the Eagles and the 49ers, like, what do you have? And the 49ers, like, they have an injured quarterback every year. Like, if Jalen Hurts goes down and you have Lamar Jackson, you're all of a sudden up there with the favorites to win the NFC. So it just doesn't make any sense, which is why the whole collusion thing makes a lot more sense to me. Like, they're not going after him because, they believe the Ravens made a fair offer or whatever's going on behind the scenes. But it doesn't pass the smells test in that regard. And that's why I don't think the Falcons are going to be interested, because they've made it clear that they're not going to be interested. But if there was ever a time to pivot on this, if there really is nothing going on, I just don't know how the Falcons don't pivot on this and at least inquire. At least inquire. Like, give us, like, how do you not inquire about that? That's my biggest thing. Like, how?
Well, if he's still on a non-exclusive tag and it's still the price, you can just sign him and pay the 2 first-round picks, which I don't know if that is still a possibility. I don't know if that has already passed. But from what I understand, you can wait until after the draft. And if you talk about the Falcons being favorites in the NFC South, yeah, it would probably make sense to wait then, because, I mean, if you make the playoffs, you win your division, you're automatically at least picking 16th. So I don't know. That makes sense to me, but we'll have to see. I don't think I don't think we'll hear another peep about it outside of fans, which, fans are always going to talk about that. But it's just something that I just don't see happening at this point. I don't see him, coming from the back of the pack like a horse at the Kentucky Derby to all of a sudden swoop in and grab Lamar after the draft. That would be awesome. But especially because when you talk about giving up compensation, you don't even have to worry about that until literally 365 days away, the next draft. So I don't know. I don't see it happening. But if they were going to do it, I would prefer they wait until after the draft now that we see that there's really just a non-existent market, apparently. I could be okay with it.
Yeah, far out there theory that, I'm not the first to mention. I think one of you guys actually brought it to my attention, was the Washington Commanders just, Dan Snyder throwing a bunch of money at it and then bouncing on the league would just be absolutely hilarious, because this is already pay-per-view entertainment. I mean, this is basketball. This is NBA trade deadline crap. I mean, this is legitimate drama. And that would just add so much fuel to the fire. If the Falcons don't get them, I would love it if the Commanders just threw 250 fully guaranteed. Hell, 300. Really screw the owners, because I don't care. It's not our money.
Yeah, I mean, he's screwing the owners, but he's not screwing the team. That's probably the biggest reason he doesn't do it. He probably doesn't want the Commanders to be any good after he leaves. He has such pride that, like, because you put Lamar Jackson on the Commanders, if you put Lamar Jackson on an NFC team, they are automatically in the conversation for Super Bowl contenders because of how bad this conference is, especially a team in the NFC South. I mean, that's why the whole scenario is so wild.
Yeah, and you talk about Aaron Rodgers could still be moving away from the Packers. The NFC North, they have the Vikings, but the Vikings may have gotten a little worse this offseason. They're still a question mark. The Rams have been bad. The Seahawks, maybe they're a one-year wonder. We'll see. But any team in the NFC that gets Lamar, I think they could really, really make a postseason run. And I don't know why it shouldn't be Atlanta.
Yep.